Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. This evening we're going to give whisky a miss for one evening and look at one of the other great spirits of the world, that being rum. So, what have I chosen? Well, basically there are a huge amount of rums on the market. I mean, if you go back, say, about 10 years ago, most of the rums you could find were the god-awful navy rums, which had been sort of coloured with caramel and were black and, you know, just awash with caramel to cover up poor spirit. But rum has been going through quite a renaissance over the last 10 years, and, you know, there are, like I said, a number of rums now on the market. So I thought, let's have a look at a couple of different styles of rums. What I've got is two that are created in a distillery and then blended, and two which are purely sourced from various other distilleries and blended together by the company concerned, shall we say. So what we have is the RL Seals 10-year-old, which comes from the Foursquare distillery in Barbados. Great bottle, isn't it? Real funky bottle, looks like it's been on the juice anyway. Also we have the Appleton Estate 8-year-old. Again, that comes from the Appleton distillery in Jamaica. Then we have two blended rums which have been created. We have the Angostura 1824 from Trinidad, and we have the Ronza Kappa from Guatemala. Right, okay, so shall we start with the Seals? Now, Seals Distillery was built on the site of an old sugar producing factory. And as you know, essentially what rum is the byproduct of the sugar industry. When the sugar has been spun, what gets left is this gloopy mass called molasses. Now, of course, not all rum is made from molasses, as we will find out, but a large proportion of rum is made from this molasses. It's rich in sugar, which obviously allows it to be turned into alcohol. And so the original sugar factory dates back to the 1600s. And in the late, mid to late 90s, Richard Seal decided that he was going to build a distillery there. Prior to that, he had run a company which had specialised in bottling rums, but obviously decided that he wanted his own distillery, and now produces a number of different rums and bottles and blends for a number of other companies. But shall we let's stick a nose in the glass and see what this gives us. Now, lovely, pungent Barbadian aromas, lots of dried fruit, little bit of an almost peaty kind of character, and slightly sort of high-toned, quite an elegant style. I mean, as you can see, it's completely natural colour from being aged in American oak. Little bit of spice, but it's that sort of pungent, almost slightly oily dried fruit that is absolutely gorgeous. This is a lovely rum. Yeah, full of character. Really very, very good. Okay, shall we see what it tastes like then, shall we? Very smooth, very soft. Classic dried fruit rancio. Little bit of citrus, bit of orange. Some lovely spices, lovely soft, succulent spices. Not too heavy, quite light. Like I said, on the nose, gives it sort of an elegant sort of feel. But you know, and again, lovely balance. You get sort of some some lovely dried fruit, a little bit of spice, wonderful length. That is a very, very nice rum. It's kind of an ideal rum for sort of people that want to sort of get into rum, because it's not too heavy. There's not too many of the odd flavours that you find with some rums, certainly the agricoles, which we'll talk about later. So this is a lovely sort of starting rum, and yeah, it's very, very enjoyable. Mm.
I can't believe this could happen this way.
Right, okay. Shall we look at the next of the distillery bottlings, which is the Appleton Estate 8-year-old. Brilliant value for money, I think, at around about sort of £30. The distillery itself is quite old. It was established in 1749. It's found in the Nassau Valley in Jamaica, which is a very fertile area, has its own kind of unique microclimate, which makes it ideal for the production of sugar cane. And it's, you know, a lovely Jamaican whiskey, he says, having not put my nose in it, but I have tasted it before. Quite a bit more richer than the Barbados. So let's see what the nose gives us then. A lot denser, a lot deeper. It's butch. It's very broad. There's again a slight sort of earthy peatiness, and plenty of dried fruit. Yeah, that's a great nose. Very full, very rich, typical Jamaican in style. A little bit of oils, and a little bit of a sort of a slight floral top note developing now. Very, very complex. And there's a little bit of oak, which kind of supports the flavours, and it's just noticeable. Again, as you can see, natural colour, slightly darker than the previous one, the Seals. But yeah, that's a very broad and very, very nice nose. Right then, onto the palate. Again, wonderfully smooth. Again, slightly oily, lovely coating of the mouth. Dried fruits, sun-dried raisins, a bit of sultana, little bit of citrus. Again, it's a very broad, very weighty style of rum. A little bit of bittering at the end, but that's giving a little bit of sort of cocoa, or more like mocha, slightly coffee-like. Again, yeah, that's great. That's got a real presence. You can certainly tell that that's a good old Jamaican, as they say. Right. Okay. On to the Angostura. Now, this is, like I said, not a product of one single distillery. Angostura as a company was formed back in the early to mid 1800s by a German scientist called Cigars. He of the Angostura bitters fame. Eventually, he found his way to Trinidad, and since then moved into rum production. The Angostura Rum Company is a big company, makes quite a broad range of different styles of rum. But you know, I thought we'd look at the 1824 as it's, you know, moderately priced. It's edging into sort of the premium rum territory, shall we say? But I think it's got certainly an awful lot going toward it. So Shall we stick a nose in the glass? Ooh, that's complex. Bananas, toffee, quite pungent. It's got a lovely sweetness to it. Slight sort of granulated sugar. A little bit of a floral note. Lots of dried fruit. This is very, very deep. Very, very rich. This is getting sweeter. The previous two were quite dry, but now we're getting into the more sweeter molasses kind of style. Lovely aromatics. But again, quite sweet. This is certainly you need a sweet tooth for this one, although it's not as sweet as say as some rums can be. But it's certainly sort of moving in that direction. Little bit of toast now from the oak. Very, very complex. Really, very, very nice. Okay, let's see if this is as good in the mouth as it is on the nose. Very broad, very complex. Lots of rich dried fruit, some banana, some slightly squishy tropical fruit, but it's lovely sugary, slightly honeyed, slightly toffeed coating to it. It really fills the mouth wonderfully. A little bit of spice. It's a bit of oak, just to kind of support it, but it's very full, very sweet. Well, not very sweet. It's quite sweet. There are sweeter, but bit of burnt chocolate now, possibly. A little bit of coffee, maybe. Yeah, that's a mouth-filling rum. That is a very good rum. Right, okay, finally let's look at the Ronza Kappa. Again, the Ronza Kappa is a blended rum. It comes from Guatemala and is distributed by good old Diageo. The interesting thing about this is the Solera 23 bottling, which, as the name suggests, is aged in a Solera. So, for those of you that don't know about sherry, which is predominantly aged in Soleras, what they have a tendency to do is they rack the juice from barrels on different levels into one cask, so it continually refreshes. So when it needs topping up, they will put new make spirit into the uppermost level of barrels, and obviously it is trickled down to the bottom barrels. This gives you a continuity of style, obviously. And this particular bottling was bottled for the centenary celebrations of the town of Zacapa in Guatemala. And as you can see from the colour of it, it's certainly the darkest of the rums that we're tasting. Again, natural colour. The other interesting thing about this is what I alluded to earlier on in the different styles of rum making. The three that we've tasted previously are all based on molasses, but in some of the French islands, like Haiti, for example, they tend to use sugarcane juice rather than the molasses themselves. And what that tends to give you is a very different character. It gives you a herbal kind of character. You'd have to kind of taste it and smell it to sort of fully understand it. It's a bit vegetal, which may sound a bit off-putting, but it's a really interesting style. Now, the interesting thing about the Ronza Kappa is that it is made from sugarcane syrup, and from tasting it previously, I think it kind of bridges the gap between the molasses-based rums and those that are made from sugarcane juice, which are called agricoles. And so it has a tendency to have the character of both of the styles of rum, which is quite unique. Hence why I think it's quite a good stepping stone into the agricole styles. So shall we see what the nose gives us then? Quite whiskey-like, spirity, but not in a bad way. It kind of works on two levels. It has a dense core of molassesy kind of rich dried fruit, and then above it you get this slightly vegetal character. Again, some lovely crystallized sugar coated citrus fruit, some burnt wood, again a sort of slightly peaty note which kind of is part of this kind of vegetal character. Chocolatey, really chocolatey. This is a big rum. This is a serious after dinner or cigar pairing kind of rum. Like I said, lovely balance to it. Very, very weighty. This is a stunning rum. It really is. It has to be said. You could smell this all day, you know, or all evening, as the case may be. But shall we see what it tastes like then? Very viscous, very coating, lots of oils, sort of a cola-y kind of character. Juicy dried plums maybe, a bit of cherry, very, very oily, quite sweet, lots of coating to the mouth. It really fills the mouth, but it's nicely balanced. It has that slightly high-toned agricole kind of note, which slightly cleanses it. I think if this didn't have that, it would be very sweet. It would be very cloying. But that kind of crisp agricole kind of note kind of gives it a bit of balance, gives it a bit of lift. And at the end of the day, as you know, with any spirit that I taste, what I want is balance, and I think this has it in absolute bucketsfuls. Not cheap, it has to be said. So we are looking at the sort of the premium end of the rum market, shall we say? But that is wonderful.
Hey!
Right, okay. Shall we sum these up then? 4 really very, very good rums. 2 of which, like I said earlier, were produced at single distilleries. The other 2 being blends from various aged rums sourced from other distilleries. A great little lineup. RL Seals, well, it's a light, I wouldn't say beginner's rum. Well, yeah, to a certain extent it is. It's light, it's elegant, it's soft. It's a wonderful rum to sort of start to look at the whole different styles of rum. The Appleton Estate, just a big, broad, juicy Jamaican, as they say, and don't we all want one of those? Yeah, it's great. It's lovely. It's broader. It's kind of, to me, it's the Ardbeg of rums, shall we say. It has that sort of rich, slightly peaty, very broad, masculine kind of style, and again, moderately priced. So certainly worth popping along to www.gauntleys.com and picking up a bottle. Just get that plug in. Angostura, right? We're now sort of stepping up a level in complexity terms. Again, quite on the sweet side. So that you're going to have to like that kind of style and have a little bit of a sweet tooth. Wonderful balance, it has to be said, and you know, really good quality, and you know, what more can you say at the end of the day? You know, that's a good summation of that particular rum. And finally, the Ronza Kappa. I mean, you know, absolutely stunning rum. Really, really good rum. Like I said, a great rum for bridging the style between the molasses-based rum and the agricoles. I didn't taste an agricole this evening because that would have probably been one too many. But I love the agricoles. I love slightly weird, slightly off-centre kind of, or left of centre, should we say, styles of spirit. Although as long as they're not too left of centre. And I think the Ronza Kappa is a really good intermediary. It kind of moves, you know, the flavours of both styles, of both the molasses and both the agricoles, and it kind of melds them together. So it's a really nice stepping stone between the two, and just amazingly complex. You know, I could, you know, drink that all night. It has to be said. So, if that's whetted your appetite for looking at the gamut of rums that are on the market, like I said, these 4 bottlings are available to purchase through our website. You can also pop along to our or to my website on where my tasting notes are. I'm losing the train of thought here. Obviously, too much rum. And have a look at some of the tasting notes I've written on the other rums that I've tasted over the years. Incidentally, while we're talking about rums, great pairing for cigars, so go and have a look at our cigar selection, and you know, pick yourself a cigar to go with it. So that's basically about it. I think I've waffled for long enough, so all that's left to say is grab your glass of Ronza Kappa and good evening. You didn't say anything. We've got no bloody outtakes for tonight.
Alright, listening to another video. It's still recording, that's good.